branch manager, Sergeant Major soon to be, Larry Ferguson.
Thanks, Sergeant Major. Awesome. Okay, so yeah, I want this to be very, just bring it on. You know, like just ask me any questions that you have, or concerns that you have, or how come this isn't happening, and I'll do the best that I can, my ability to answer those or explain, where we're at right now. And it's probably going to be a lot of stuff you're going to ask me that I do not know the answer to. I will note it. I'll go back to HRC land, do some digging at some numbers, and then I'll send you emails and call you back. So I've talked to a lot of you on the phone, and I've emailed with many, many of you too already. So I feel like some of the conversations that I could have to the whole group, I've had to each of you individually. So I don't want to belabor this with a whole bunch of slides and charts and numbers and stuff like that, unless you want numbers. And then I got charts and numbers, HRC style. They're really hard to understand too. So, but I also have Master Sergeant Carl here too. And so we were joking before, if you don't like your assignment and you own it and you're about to report, it's not my fault, it's her fault. She put you on the assignment. Yeah.
I get to defer to
and
Randolph too.
Yep.
Some of y'all might be going on assignments he put you on yet.
Yeah, so if it's anything that you're complaining about that involves both of us, it's Sergeant Major Randolph's fault because he's not here either. So I think a note on that though is we're definitely building on each other as we go through one branch manager after the other. I think Sergeant Major Randolph did a great job of kind of like laying a steady base for us at HRC too. I want to talk a tad bit about HRC world a little bit, because I think when I sat in your seat, I did not understand what goes on in that building. I did not, and I always had questions like, what is happening there? How come I can't get a person and this person gets a person? Why did she send me this person? What's going on? How come I don't have orders? Those are the kind of questions that were running through my head. I had no idea what HRC is like. I had no idea that we are one person in a gigantic building and representing our CMF. We're it, pretty much, So we're the ones that are going to battle and try to explain to other people who know a lot why we need this person to go here. And yes, we know this person is retiring and they haven't put their packet in yet, so the system doesn't show that they're gone, but we still need a backfill right now. Those are the kind of things that I kind of want to paint a picture for you a little bit. Not for excuses, because I know that sometimes it can come off as excuses. If you call and you're like, how come I'm not getting this person, or why can't I go here? And I start listing all the HRC reasons why, then I understand that can come off sounding like excuses. But more because I look at them as obstacles. I see me learning HRC for us as a career field so that then I can do the things I need to do to help you in your careers, and you as leaders too, in your soldiers' careers. It is a learning process, and as I see an obstacle, and I'm not going to take no for an answer, as she didn't, as Sergeant Major Randolph didn't before. But in order for us to fight that fight together, you need to be prepared as well, and we need to be armed and have our ducks in a row. So there are some reasons why you're not getting the people that you want to get, or you don't have the overlaps, and some of them are our fault. Like some of them are us as NCO's fault for not understanding strength, understanding what it means, understanding when we have 6 people sitting at a division at the headquarters because we need them there, that's taking away from those brigades because it all comes together and it's one division strength. Understanding we have a whole bunch of people on one installation, a ton of sergeant first classes, that plays into whether or not HRC is going to let me send you another one. Even though you need it, your unit needs it, but there's a bunch of them hanging out there. So I think those are kind of the obstacles that we all need to understand, so that then when we're talking, it's like, okay, we're going to battle together, and how can I help you? What can you do on your end? Work with your G1 sergeant majors, or understanding strengths, understanding gains and inbounds, and who has the power to divert your inbounds and who does not. Those kind of things I think are really important. So that's pretty much all I want to open with. I want to say thank you too, because it can be very lonely at HRC for us. We are just one person there, and I think we're the only branch that really has one person. There's a ton of, everybody else has a crap ton of other people. Like you should see the size of like Signal and Engineer branch, tons and tons of people, and we have just us. So sometimes in that building it can feel a little bit lonely, but I can definitely say that there are sergeants major in this room and master sergeants and NCOs I see that make me feel not alone, because you call me a lot. And you definitely make sure that I know that you exist out there. And so I really appreciate that. And for you guys that are being proactive about your careers too, that is awesome. That is, to me, that is a huge part of talent management. If you are not taking your own career into your own hands and being involved in it and wanting to know what's out there for you and communicating with me, because it is open, you can call me, which is also different than other branches too. We're one of the few where a sergeant can call me and talk to me. And I will talk through what's good for your family, what's good for you, with your NCOIC involved, obviously, so that they're understanding what we're talking about, and I'm not just going to yank you from them. But other career fields don't do that. They don't do that. Even chemical, which is small, they got some civilians in there, and you're E5, you're going wherever the computer says they need you to go. So what I want to make sure that we put out to all of our NCOs is take advantage of that, because it is a gift that you can call, and I will hopefully answer the phone, and if not, call you back, then I will try to and talk through that. And when the opportunities come up too, like Sergeant Major said, talent management, when we have awareness of how small we are, as senior NCOs especially, Sergeant First Classes, Staff Sergeant Promotables. You chose to do this. You chose this career field, and you're excelling, obviously, and we want you to keep going and be a good senior NCO. Part of taking that promotion, part of being a Sergeant First Class, part of being a Master Sergeant and Sergeant Major is going where we need you to go, when we need you to go there. Now, I understand family concerns and all those things. Those are definitely factors in readiness. But when there's only so many positions, and timing-wise, this is what is open for you. If I offer you an NCOIC position, or if I offer you a PAD NCOIC position, or a KD position, key development position at your grade, don't hesitate, unless there's legitimate family reasons. Don't hesitate because you don't really like Fort Drum. Don't hesitate because, you know what, Korea is not ideal for you. Korea is ideal for a lot of people. I want to change the mentality about Korea too, because it is a good place to go and get your experience. And I mean, it's crammed into compact, so you're going to come out of there as Division NCOIC with 1 year versus 24 months. And I mean, you earn it. It is busy. And family, right? If you want to stay where you are, there is no better way to try to achieve that. Not guaranteed, but try to achieve that. Like, you love Bragg. You want to stay on Bragg? Okay, well, your best option right now, because you've been there for 150 months, is to go to Korea, knock out a KD assignment. I mean, you don't even have to worry about your NCOER. It's going to write itself there because the stuff you're going to be doing there. Go there, do that, and then we can try to work it out where you get back to your family at Bragg. Same thing with Campbell, Hood, all those places, okay? So I want to kind of change the mentality in Korea too a little bit. As a whole, I do it all the time. I say, well, you're going to Korea if you don't call me. I should stop that too, because there's nothing negative about Korea, right? Go knock it. People love it, right? A lot of people love it. You probably haven't been at CRC if you love it, but I mean, there's nothing negative about that. I think you look at some of the successful people in this career field, and a lot of them did their time well in Korea. So I would like for you guys to think about that as senior NCOs, and also push that back to your staff sergeants, your staff sergeant promotables. The new guys that are coming into our career field, I could open up a whole other can of worms on them too. But those are kind of my big ticket items. So HRC, when we're reclassing people, there's all these different branches there: retention branch, reclass branch. Over here you got OCONUS branch, special something branch, all these other people that are standing between what I want to do for you and what you want to accomplish sometimes. And so understanding that process, and that it's not necessarily that I'm blowing you off or that I'm not being proactive about your assignment. It takes time sometimes, and everything needs to be in order. EF&P, EF&P. I say that like 50 times, EF&P. If you have an EF&P, make sure it is updated. Always updated and renewed, because sometimes that'll be the difference between you getting an assignment that will be great for your career and not, if we have to wait for that EF&P to get removed. Or if you don't want to go to Korea, you're probably going to Korea if your EF&P is not renewed. So that's another one too. Those are my kind of big ticket items. I know that we could kind of go down a deep rabbit hole with strength and reclasses and those type of things. I know that Master Sergeant Lisea, wherever he is, in the back there, he's going to briefly, throwing you under the bus, he's going to briefly mention some of those things, I think, during his proponent update. So I don't want to go too deep down the woods on that. As you guys all know, we're trying to get people to come into our career field, right? And actively trying to get people to see why public affairs is so great and why they should reclass into it. A lot of people in this room have can credit themselves as bringing some good people into our career field. And we're still doing that, and that's still happening. I think it's important that everybody in the room, though, and pass it along, understands that we're no longer that packet MOS that we used to be. So the right answer is still, get their career counselors to call me. That's fine. I'll talk through everything with them the best that I can. And then their career counselors, they're obviously going to need to go to APAC if they need a waiver. But other than that, those career counselors should know how to work with HRC reclass branch. They should understand that process. They do it for every other MOS when people reclass into it. So there's things that have changed and shifted, and I ask that you educate yourself on those things so that you can better counsel those NCOs that you're trying to help and get into our career field. And I also ask that you be extremely honest with them too. So MACP, it's not the easiest thing to be MACP in this career field. It's not. So I would rather, if you're trying to get somebody to come into our career field and they are in MACP, I would rather you be honest with them and tell them that we are small, there isn't a lot of places you could go. Think about that, because what happens a lot of times, and it's unfortunate, is that I get a call from somebody that's already in DIMFOS. They're already in the schoolhouse, they're already on orders. And they're going someplace that doesn't align, or they don't like the place they're going, they don't want to go to Korea, they got family stuff, and I didn't know any of that, and there's only so many places they can go because they're MACP. So I'm not saying we don't want them, we absolutely want them, right? I mean, that's a great Army family if both people serve. But I just think it's important when we're getting people all hyped up to come into our career field, that we're honest with them about where we are, that we're small, that you don't always get to just be like, well, I want to go to, I don't know, name some place that we don't have spots, because a lot of them don't know that. Okay, so just be honest. I think that's my spiel of everything I can think of right now. So if you guys want to bring it on, yes, Sergeant Major.
Thank you. Can you talk a little bit about deferrals, deletions, and how it impacts you, your process, the organization, and individual soldiers?
Sure, absolutely, Sergeant. That's a great question. So deferrals and deletions, they impact greatly because we're counting on that person, to go there. And many times they happen so late in the game, too, that we can't then get somebody there without a gap. So I think they definitely impact the readiness and impact your unit. And as far as deferrals and deletions go, there's a process that it's supposed to go through, and I think that's important. And I will say that I am 100% call me. I would rather you call me and get your soldier to call me, even if they think they know because they talk to their S1 that this is how I'm supposed to do this. I would rather them call me so that I'm aware, and then I can support them and be aware of it happening. Because the worst thing that can possibly happen is somebody in a pad, and I'm just using this as an example because it happened, somebody in a pad, their own orders. And make sure that your soldiers too, those junior soldiers, now I understand you probably are, and some of this is, it went in one ear and out the other, understand what it means to be on assignment. Like there's no halfway on assignment. There's no, I kind of thought I was on orders but wasn't sure. If they're on assignment and they have a report date, they need to be there for that report date, right? And sometimes in our smaller units, I think they'll go talk to their S1 because they have a family concern or issue. And then that S1 will do a 4187 for them, and it starts the mysterious chain up to HRC world, which is really quite short, yet takes forever for some reason and gets diverted a lot. And if I'm not tracking to look for it, and that soldier thinks they're good to go, and they don't have the leadership in between that's kind of guiding them and mentoring them, then they might think that their orders are deleted, and they're not. So we had somebody that just didn't show up on assignment, just didn't show up for their report date because they thought the 4187 was good to go and they did deferred. So and so what does that cause then? That cause that person didn't show up. So then we have a gap there, and then I'm scrambling to try to get somebody there. So I think it's anything under 90, it might be 60, yeah.
You can defer up to 60 days.
Yeah.
But so another thing to understand with that is if that soldier has already been deferred. So if the assignment was in the system and that assignment said it had a required report date of October, but then the soldier or someone in the leadership chain called us and said, hey, we got this big exercise going on. Soldier wants to participate in the exercise, plus it aligns better for the family. Can we defer them to December? So as long as it's not a B-coded rec, which would be your Korea assignments primarily, branch has the ability to defer them up to 60 days. But if something crazy happens and that soldier requires another deferment, that option is off the table now for us at branch. It has to go through that 4187 process now and be deferred through special actions branch. The other thing you guys need to understand as leaders about those fail to report, it's not just an inconvenience for another unit, it's not just a readiness issue. You are also potentially creating some tremendous issues for that individual soldier. Because by regulation, if a soldier fails to report to their proper unit by the 10th of the month that they were supposed to report, their previous unit has 30 days for which to account for them appropriately. And if they don't, they're supposed to get dropped from rolls. When a soldier gets dropped from rolls, their pay stops, all of their insurance stops, all of their benefits stop, their TSP stops, everything. Okay, I'm dealing with a soldier right now that happened. 3 years ago, the soldier didn't get paid for 5.5 months because the finance office failed to gain the soldier correctly. Okay, so that's a leader responsibility as well. If you know there's a situation with your soldier that they're not going to be there, and pay attention, talk to your S1. Make sure your soldier was gained correctly. They are the losing unit's responsibility until the gaining unit does the email code transaction.
Yeah, and they also count on your numbers too, and your strength as the losing unit if they don't sign into the other unit too. So it's a soldier issue, it's a readiness issue for the gaining unit. It's also, if we're doing our job as NCOIC's Sergeants Major, we're looking at our gains rosters, and we're projecting out like 6 to 9 months out. At least, like who's coming, who's leaving, how's that working? So especially in our career field where it's like whack-a-mole, where it's like one person, when we're one deep in a lot of spots, one person falling off orders can just screw up a whole chain of events, right? And so I think, in our career field, it is definitely makes a huge difference when it comes to that. So communicating, there are ways if a soldier, if there's a legitimate issue, and there are checks and balances in HRC too to make sure that us branch managers aren't just running wild and deleting everybody off of assignment, and also like if I'm going to delete somebody off of assignment for some reason, then I'm going to reach out to whoever. I'm going to make sure I'm going to talk to whoever is in that chain all the way up to the sergeant major, local sergeant major, to make sure they understand why I'm doing this, so it doesn't the person's not just falling off, because sometimes it is a better decision for the soldier. Sometimes it is. Yeah, Stephanie.
Good morning, sir. I had a question about compassionate reassignments and how that affects not only the unit, but how it affects the person's career when they're not actually slotted in a slot.
Okay. So, yeah, compassionate reassignments, obviously I don't do that. So if you're doing I think it's important to understand the vocabulary too. So sometimes when we work with a soldier to send them somewhere, because it works for their family, and it may be a medical issue or something like that. And ideally, your leadership would reach out to me, and then we'd be like, "What can we do? Is there some way we can do this without it being a compassionate reassignment? Is there a career progressive assignment that makes sense for the family? Is there some way we can work this?" And 90% of the time we can. We can work together and figure it out. But sometimes you can't. Sometimes if you're going to if you need to go to one of those areas where either A, we're way over strength, and so I can't just place you on assignment there, or B, we don't have anybody or any slots in those areas, then you need to do the compassionate paperwork, and then it goes through a whole different branch of HRC that I have nothing to do with at all, and then they basically put you on assignment to that place. So they should ask me, but sometimes they don't even ask me. You just pop up and I'm like, whoa, where is this person going here? Because you did a compassionate reassignment. And that tool exists for a reason. So there should be nothing negative at all associated with that. Because if you're putting in if you work through your chain of command and you're putting in a compassionate reassignment 4187, and HRC agrees with you, not me, but the HRC powers that be that say those are justified agree with you, then it's better for your family, and that's why they're doing it. So I personally, now I can't speak for anyone else who would see it, I think that just like every single assignment in this career field, everything is what you make of it. So if you get compassionately reassigned and that works best for your family, and you still are very driven and career focused, and you're in a non-career progressive assignment, then I would say within the limits of working with your family and being there for them, because that's what the assignment is for, find ways as an NCO to make that assignment career progressive. I think every single assignment can be career progressive, just based off of the fact that I've watched, if you looked at the board analysis, which I'm not going to show you the chart, but I'll send it out. If you look at the board analysis, you see a wide spectrum of backgrounds of how people got to get promoted. There is no one track. There is no one way. Is it ideal? In my head, because I was a division NCOIC, I think it's ideal that you be a division NCOIC. I think that's great, but if you're not, that doesn't necessarily mean you're never going to get promoted to Sergeant Major. Same thing with Ops NCO at a division. Or some people that came up SRC 45 through MPADs may think that the only way you're going to get promoted is if you're a PAD NCOIC. Well, there's a lot of people that got promoted that weren't PAD NCOICs. You know, I am in a Sergeant First Class position right now. This is a Sergeant First Class position. Yet I mean it, and nobody would ever know that because it was a Sergeant Major before. She's going to the academy right now, non-res, and I'm in it right now. So I think every single assignment is what you make it. So if that answers your question, I think yes, if you let it, a compassionate reassignment can slow your career down a little bit. That's a priority choice that you made for your family, though, you know. But it doesn't necessarily have to, if that makes sense. Yeah.
So some of the nuances about compassionates for you guys to be aware of. Compassionates are only in the system for 1 year. Okay, if for some reason, now there are certain exceptions. There are a couple cases where you can request that it be a 2-year stabilization. That only applies to specific circumstances that are outlined in the doctrine. Now, a soldier can request an extension of that compassionate stabilization. It goes through that same initial process that was used. Or a soldier can request an early termination of that compassionate stabilization. There is a reason those timelines exist, okay? So I would encourage anyone who goes that route or anyone who is supervising soldiers who have had to go that route, have that conversation with them. I know some of you in this room, I've had the discussion when I was in Sergeant Ferguson's seat of sometimes you have to put your family first, regardless of the career progression, regardless of the concerns for career progression. Sometimes you have to make that hard choice and you have to put your family first. You have to understand sometimes, given the timing and given where you are, your assessment may be correct. It very well might be what determines whether you're going to achieve the next rank or not. But at the end of the day, it's in our song. The Army keeps rolling along. Your family is potentially going to have some situations where they need you. And you need to make that hard choice to be there for your family if that option exists. So don't take those decisions lightly, but also understand what Sergeant Ferguson said. Every position is what you make it. I've held some of the crappiest positions, at least in other people's eyes. Sergeant Major Baker can tell you, everyone said, IO sucks. I loved my time in IO. And I learned so much from my time in IO. Every position is what you make it.
Sure, yep. So, I'll go to you, Steph. One thing though, step number one, if that is a situation, step number one is call me. That is step number one. Call me after you've talked to your chain of command, have them involved, and I swear I will do everything I possibly can to facilitate it where, there are situations where it's really good for the Army too. This works, you go here. Maybe you're leaving here a little earlier than you were going to. Maybe somebody here needs to go somewhere else. Like, there are all kinds of puzzle pieces we can put together and everything. But I think the key to this whole entire talk is to communicate with me. Call me, send me an email, and if there's anything I can do, I will do it. I will run it into the ground to the point where there's nothing else I can do, and yep, you're gonna have to do a compassionate reassignment. Like, we will do everything possible that we can. So Lowers.
Can you speak to the difficulty or even the steps that it takes to change a unit's IMTO? For instance, maybe a higher headquarters.
Oof, no. Yeah. So I can't. Yeah. That's his fault. Wherever he went, I think did he walk out? Yeah, Sergeant Major. I will talk on part of that, but Sergeant Major, go ahead.
When you get your new alerts, like for drill sergeant duty or something, how does that impact the career field, and how hard is it for you to fill those positions when they come across Master Sergeant cars? You fill that.
So
Sergeant Ferguson worked the most.
I had to do. I think you might have had a lot more than me. So far, I've had to do one, and that's it. You know, that's a good point, though. I want to talk about drill sergeants and recruiters for a second, but I want to answer. Try to at least. I'll answer in the scope of how it affects me. The MTO question. Okay. So I know. So Army manning guidance is what drives how I assign people. Right. So it's a long equation. Basically, it starts with Army manning guidance, which says this type of unit is top priority, then this type of unit is next, and this type of unit is next. And so you mix that Army manning guidance with some secret formula thing they do in the HRC back room, and it pops out a target. Right. So you may be authorized 5 people at your unit, but when it pops that all out and mixes our inventory of what we actually have, then it's going to pop out a target number. So maybe because of you're not tier level 1 when it comes to manning. You're down here tier level 3. So maybe you're not going to get manned to 100%. You're going to get manned to 80%, because that's what the Army manning guidance says. Not me, not Sergeant Major V, not the CPA. Army manning guidance says that. So that's how that affects your targets, right? And I think that's important to understand, because that's what builds the requisitions that I fill. Not me just wanting to. I would love that. That would make my life so much easier if I could just say, yep, I know what's going on in this unit right here. I know they got 3 that are probably going to med board. They got 1 that's probably going to retire. This guy's got a fence code, but they still got 4 people. I can't send them anybody else right now because they still got 4 people. So I think that, you know, changing your MTOs and those types of things, there is a long process that goes into that is so way out there in the universe from where I sit. But I'm just trying to explain how that drives what I do, and why you get somebody and you don't right now, or why I know that the change in priority, I know what we want to accomplish. I'm going to use Sergeant Major Davey. I know that at DMA we want to accomplish a certain thing. I know we want to do that. I get it, and it makes perfect sense to me. And so I'm going to try to find ways to make that happen, but I can't create like another spot. I can't. That is like far, far away.
So yeah. The one thing to note with those MTO changes as well, as far as it affects those targets, if the system is already acknowledging those changes, at a certain point, the system starts accounting for those changes. So a unit how many of you were in the pads as the relocations were happening? A couple of you guys. Okay, so as those relocations were happening, what happens is at a certain point, once it hits the system, those targets drop for those units that are losing the authorizations. And then they pop up somewhere else. And then there's a certain amount of time. So here was an interesting one with those pad changes, because all of them moved or deactivated at the same time. So, and then you had to account for the inventory. So all of the pads, when they relocated, were supposed to be at 100%, because part of the Army manning guidance, and I see you guys back there laughing because I know what y'all's looked like when that happened. So part of the Army manning guidance is 100% or within, I want to say 180 days, 180 days of ED. We didn't have the inventory to support that. And so those moves that y'all were doing on your own installations to try and take care of your people, it affected the readiness of those detachments, because all of those detachments were still on patch charts to continue to do Korea rotations, to continue to head out to U.S. Army Europe to support their mission. So that same bullet point that Sergeant Ferguson keeps hitting of having that conversation with her before you do anything where your personnel are concerned, there are leaders sitting in this room right now who caused other units to not have the ability to accomplish their mission. Got it. What it came down to was people were trying to take care of their individual soldiers, but as senior NCOs, we have to look beyond our individual soldiers, and we have to look at the Army's needs as well and take that into consideration. And sometimes we have to have that hard conversation with our soldier of, I know this isn't ideal for you and your family right now, but unfortunately, this is what the doctrine says, and this is what the Army needs from you right now.
I want to answer Sergeant Major Sparks' question real quick, and then I'll go to you, Sergeant. So drill sergeants and recruiters, so I'll just get this random notification that we have a mission, and we need to come up in like 3 weeks with whatever it is, one male drill sergeant, one male AIT platoon sergeant. I haven't had a recruiter one yet because we have a lot of recruiters right now, which I'll talk about in just a second. And then I literally have like 3 weeks to come up with somebody who meets the timeline to be able to go, who's not like Oconus somewhere under 12 months, and who also will pass the requirements. So not in profile, and also I'm also trying to mix in there, does it make sense for their career right now? Because as we all know in this room, there is a whole ton of sergeant promotables, staff sergeants, even some staff sergeant promotables that really haven't done that much in this career field yet. So does it really make sense for them, if they've only been in the career field for like 6 months, doing this job, to then go on the trail for 3 years? And then they're probably going to get picked up because they were on the trail. And so then they're going to come out of there and they're going to go be a pad NCOIC. And they have had no, and it's not that soldier's fault. They did exactly what the Army asked them to do. They came into our career field, they went to be a drill sergeant, they clearly excelled because they got picked up out of there. And now we're setting them up for failure pretty much. Well, a hard road, not failure. Some of them can figure it out and do it. But so when I'm looking for who's going to be a drill sergeant, I'm looking for that too. But this last time, I think I kind of like had a light bulb moment and remembered that I'm not alone, and sent an email out to sergeants major, master sergeants, sergeant first class promotables, and asked them for candidates. Send me some names. Now and I said, don't worry about anything. Just send me the name, and I'll do the screening, and I'll see if we can do waivers to get them from where they are and all that stuff. And that was awesome. And I would definitely be doing that again because it lifted the load off my shoulders. Because yes, somebody on paper could look great, but only you know if that person is fit to be a drill sergeant or if they're ready to be a drill sergeant. So do they know enough in our career field yet? Or should they instead finish out this? Is this not the time for them? And there were quite a few of them that they're awesome candidates, just not right now. They will be later. But boom, I found one just like that. Passed everything, made my mission. It was awesome. And I have a whole bunch on the list now too for the next time also too. So now recruiting. We don't have any recruiting mission right now. We don't need any recruiters right now. Yet everybody wants to be a recruiter for some reason, and I don't know. Yeah, it is location. They want to go where they think they're going to go wherever they want to go, and most of them are pretty junior in our career field. There's a couple that I don't think Sergeant Major Clem's here. There's a couple that are like they've been in our career field literally like 5 months, and they want to be a recruiter. And it's because they're MACP, and somebody told them that if they do recruiting together, that they'll end up together. And so what they do is, this is important because I think that everyone in this room needs to educate their soldiers. If they should be talking to you about being a recruiter. Just because they do recruit the recruiter and they clear whatever USEREC says does not mean they're going to be a recruiter. I still have to release them. They still have to go through a position of trust. I'm not releasing them. We are under strength right now at sergeants, and I'm not releasing people to be a recruiter unless the Army says, you better give me a recruiter right now. Because we got a lot of them that are doing good things right now, and they're awesome. Those are people that we got a mission to do too in our CMF. So even if it's good for their career field right now, to put it on the back burner, when I get a mission, or when we boost our numbers up, which Master Sergeant Lisea has the key plan to do, then we'll talk about it again. But I think it causes a lot of confusion when these soldiers don't know that, because they call me angry as fire, and that's fine. Well, where are my orders to be a recruiter? I'm like, what are you talking about? You are not being a recruiter. Well, the Sergeant First Class whoever at USEREC told me that I passed this. I'm like, nope, sorry. I admire your passion and your persistence, but call me back in a year, maybe.
So another thing with that, behind the scenes at HRC, what you guys don't know happens, or some of you probably do, but when we get those missions, there are things we can do to kind of fudge the numbers. So you guys saw, while I was in the seat, where I was saying, hey, submit your volunteer packet. Some of your soldiers, I advise them, submit their volunteer packet. Well, that's because if a soldier goes up as a volunteer, we get extra credit. And so it drops our mission requirements.
Yeah.
So some of the times when I was saying submit your volunteer packet, I already had a mission that I needed to fill. And I knew if we worked it that way, it would be less impact on our career field.
Sure.
Okay, so it comes down to that timing of it too. But we also had an increased recruiter mission during that time frame. Okay, some of that's waiting a little bit. Your guys who want to do that stuff, it might not work out for them.
Yeah, maybe not in this CMF. Probably not. Might not happen. Might happen because some people go and they're very successful. But because she did that, I'm very front-loaded right now. So nobody's being a recruiter for a while. I mean, so you can just pass that along. I'm happy to talk to people about it. Yeah, sorry.
Go ahead, sorry.
Oh, yeah. You were next. Go. You go.
Well, Master, I wanted to ask about Special Forces. I just got to the Special Forces unit from a recruiting assignment. And I've got a dozen guys sitting in a they call it they've got some name for it now, I can't remember offhand, but in an information cell, where they haven't done any public affairs at all in their entire careers. And it's a challenge. I think it's mismanagement of their careers. So I have no option to get them.
I hear you. And you know what? I'm gonna not talk about that, because I have not been in that world, and so I have my perspective on that from an HRC standpoint. And then we have some sergeants major in here that I'm sure will be happy to talk about that. Sergeant Major.
Are you at the pod?
I don't
First
know
SF Command.
I'm at First Special Forces Group, so I'm here.
Okay. So, the short answer is, where are you at? Tell me if I'm getting this right. We have 27% of Army Public Affairs in SOF. That is a lot of people. For enlisted soldiers that go to the SOF community, and I'm not talking about the TSOCs, and so group, USASOC, First SF Command especially, where they're just stacked up like cordwood, part of the problem is that they have this huge manning requirement. To talk about slotting and what happens at that command, they require a master sergeant to sit on the local board or higher. Who knows if there's a master sergeant or a sergeant major at USASOC or below? There is not. There is zero representation for the enlisted force. By the way, I'm the SOCOM sergeant major for public affairs. It's a little too high to reach down at some brigade and try to affect change from the COCOM. So we're trying to work it eventually to where we can have a master sergeant or ideally a sergeant major at the Service Component Command to start working this issue. So what I would ask is, if you're in your position, what we don't need are a bunch of folks that come out right from DINFOS, or they get there and what we get is 3 years later we get people who can PT like nobody's business. They can use foreign service weapons, they can blow stuff up, they can ruck like crazy. All that's awesome, but I need them to be good at public affairs. So if they're not getting an opportunity to practice public affairs because the mission doesn't require it, it's a break glass in case of emergency. What emergency? I don't know, we're not sure what to do kind of a mission. Spend some of that money that you have, it's there, send them to schools, make them better through schools, education, training, practice, call around and see where you can go.
Sure.
Sergeant Major, I would love to do that, but I don't have control over them. I mean, they don't belong to me. They belong to a 4th Battalion somewhere or some
practice. But there's somebody who looks just like you whose name is Staff Sergeant or Sergeant First Class, and you can take my message back to them and get them on board with the program. Can't be you, won't be you, might be me, but there's some NCO there who needs to start ringing the bell that you're ringing here for themselves and continue to find some way to progress, just like Master Sergeant who said that earlier? It was you, Master Sergeant Carl said earlier about finding a way, or maybe it was you, I can't remember, making the assignment helpful. Don't just go there and be complacent and come out an almost SF person. Go there and be really good, understand SOF, but find a way to progress in your career field.
Yeah.
And that is the job of the NCO until such time as the big Army can fix.
Sure. So, and just to echo what Sergeant Major said too, that's so important in those communities too. But I get a lot of phone calls from jokers that are sitting at MISO, and they're straight out of the schoolhouse, and it starts from the second I pick up the phone, complaining because I'm not doing the job. I reclassed into your MOS and I'm not doing the job. And so I reached out to Sergeant Major Baker for a little bit of like help and kind of guidance with this a little bit, because I've never been there. So I don't know what goes on in that world. So yeah, you don't talk about it, right? Secret. But so I'm going to reach out to the leaders that are around you. So that's what you need to do too, and that's what our NCOs in those units need to. Obviously, the message is not getting to these soldiers because they're calling me directly in chunks. Like, how can I get out of here? I need to get out of here. They have a purpose for being there. They just need some NCO to change that motivation, switch them a little bit, make the best out of these 3 years, so you don't come out of this assignment without having done anything. Right. Yes, sir.
And just so you know, so we are working to get some more seniority there. So to give you guys some context, I think it's always important to get some context. So just real quick, a few years ago, the soft world kind of overnight decided, hey, we want 30-something positions, right? Well, Sergeant First Class is a great rank in the SF world, right? They can do everything, they're special forces, they wear their green beret, they jump out of things and kill people, right? And so that's the model of kind of the traditional SF soldier. And that's great, and they're very horizontal in their organizations because everybody knows everything, and it's fine. They also have places to go. They have a master sergeant position, and they have a sergeant major position that they can eventually lead into. So, on paper, what they really wanted was they wanted their own MPAD-ish kind of organization. They didn't want to go to the conventional army and get a pad or an MPAD. They wanted their own. And so they were like, MPAD, an MPAD for Sergeant First Class. Makes sense to us. So they created these positions, didn't really get 8 packs okay with it, and because they're SF, they can just kind of do whatever they want. Boom, there it was, on paper. So then Master Sergeant Randolph, gets basically, in his system, was like, one morning he shows up, and every Sergeant First Class position in the Army, he needed to push toward software. And because they were the top priority, he had to do it. So he called me, and we had this conversation. We called down there, and we said, hey, what's going on? What do you guys want? And after peeling the onion back, what they really wanted was they wanted that capability internally. So they're on the books. At that point, there wasn't anything we could do necessarily automatically to take those off. And of course, many of you guys have fallen in on that over time. So surely, what Sergeant Major was talking about, internally, doing for yourselves as much as you can, and coordinating across some of the command units to provide, both training and education for the POG guys. It drives me nuts. I'm a former guy that served in POG years ago. And we had a great mission. Somehow, folks are, answering phones for 15, 16 months at a time. That doesn't help anybody, especially coming out of DINFOS, because it doesn't help anyone anytime, but if you don't have any experience at all, then you get really good at answering the phone. I guess you could call it broadcasting, if you will. But it doesn't necessarily help, right? So we are actively working to get a more appropriate command structure, and inevitably get master sergeant and possibly a sergeant major in there, so that at least you have some representation and someone that can kind of rally the troops and watch out for you guys and provide you with the right training. So we're working actively toward that, and we may have a solution in the next 12 months if it's possible.
So when they put out that layout, they didn't consult APAC or anyone, that they just kind of put it all on paper.
Correct. Because we don't have a sergeant major there. We don't have a senior enlisted member, not even a master sergeant. We may have gotten some from the POG guys, and we may have gotten some feedback, but inevitably, SF was like, hey, we got to do this.
It started in 2008. FU process was started then at SF Command. They were trying to create an information dominance company, and that's how it went through. It did not. It was definitely stovepipe because it goes through a different system. Where they manage their force structure, and so yeah, it didn't go to anything. I tried to ring the bell. I know USASOC, NCOIC after me tried to ring the bell, like, hey, this is coming, and there was no way to stop it. I tried to consult them, E7, within USASOC, I don't have a lot of weight. I'm telling them like, hey, this is not going to work. I'm talking to civilians there. You know, this structure, what do you guys want? They didn't consult us. It was completely done in the stovepipe.
Yeah, and the concern is what happens over time is, you know, like Sergeant Major noted, I mean, either one, okay, great, you come out, you know, super soldier, and that's awesome, and that's great for us. But can you do your job, right? So we pay you to be a soldier, but we pay you to be a public service soldier, right? And so if you leave there and you're not doing that, that's not good. The second part is, once you're in special ops, it's hard to get out of special ops because they like you, they want you to stay there. And unfortunately, what happens is, while that first NCOER looks really good, because you're like, hey, I'm a special operator, right? And that's awesome, right? But then that second NCOER kind of looks like the first, maybe a little better, right? By the third NCOER, your contemporaries in the conventional army are now PAD NCOICs, are now working ops jobs, are now at an MPAD, are now working as a station commander, whatever the current term is for an AFN, are doing all these other jobs, leading soldiers, and you're still in a very horizontal organization, Alpha Company, Specialist Velasquez, Sergeant Velasquez. And so that's not helping. And so, so surely we're working, to try and get that senior leadership in there, and working from AQUA level, directly with USASOC to try and figure out a way to get that senior leadership injected immediately, so that we can support you guys. And I know you're running out of time. I do want to say one other thing real quick before I sit down. And Sergeant Major, I keep saying Sergeant Major. This is an omen, right? It's a good thing. Master awesome. Ferguson finishes, and this is. A lot of what we're talking about here is really, it's engaged leadership, right? Everyone in the room, I think, is an NCO. And it's engaged leadership, and it isn't Sergeant Major leadership. It's leadership. So a lot of what we're talking about is that conversation. We have this great ability to talk to the branch manager. And how many of you came from other fields? Most of you, right? That's not what you do in other fields. If you're at 42 Alpha, you don't just call branch and have a deep conversation with the branch manager about where you want to go and what you want to do and what your dreams and desires are. They probably don't necessarily care. And I don't mean that in a bad way. They got a gazillion people they got to get through, right? You have that ability, and you have that for your soldiers. But understand two things. Number one, part of this leadership has to be up and down. So it has to be you with your local leadership, with your sergeants first class, with whoever your more senior NCO is above you. Having that conversation there, taking their advice, and surely I got it. You want to do what's right for you. But understand, and I'll use an example. And please, I'm not saying any of you, I'm just using a generic example. If you're part of the Fort Meade Mafia, right? And you're chilling, and you love Fort Meade, and you don't really want to leave. And let's say you're at DINFOS, and you're like, well, can I just go over to DMA? Or if you're at DMA, well, can I just go over to APAC? And I don't really want to leave. I kind of like it here. That's awesome, and I'm glad you like it there. But that's probably not where we need you. If you've done a successful tour there in a TDA unit, you need to go. And I need you NCOs to look your soldiers in the eye and be honest with them and tell them it's time to go. They may tell you, well, I know, but my wife just got this job and things are awesome and the kids are doing great in school, and I got it. And that's a fair assessment, and your families has to take a significant impact there, okay? But if soldiering, if leading soldiers, if getting through the ranks and having an impact is what you intend to do in the Army, then you as senior leaders really need to look your soldiers in the eye and tell them the truth and tell them it's time for them to go. It isn't because you want to hurt them. I know they might be scared about leaving. You've got to get them out of their comfort zone, okay? Every one of us should be able to fall in on any position and succeed. And if you can't do that, and if you're not willing to do that, I got it. But if you're not willing to do that, then this is probably not the job for you. And that's okay. You got to look at yourself in the mirror and say, if this is what I want to do, then I got to commit all the way. So I encourage you to have that conversation with Sergeant Ferguson, maintain that open dialogue, but be honest with your soldiers. Counsel them and work with them at the local level, because that's really where those assignments begin. They begin with a conversation between you and your soldier. That's where it starts. She's the contact. Thanks.
Thank you, Sergeant Major. So we're pretty much done. I'm going to wrap up by saying, don't communicate about your career in a vacuum. So like, don't just and make sure that your sergeants know that too, and your sergeant promotables, and anyone that's not here knows that too. And if I communicate with your soldiers in a vacuum by accident, It's by accident, so call me out. Be like, oh, all of a sudden my soldier just said they're going somewhere and I'm not even tracking. Call me out, because it's not intentional. I would rather you be involved in it. I want you to be involved in it, so it increases readiness for you and it helps the soldier as well. And like even when you get more senior, sometimes you can't help it. Your personal stuff gets in your head, and sometimes you can only, if you're doing it in a vacuum, you only see what you think. You can convince yourself that this is really good for me. And sometimes just having, if it's a sergeant first class, a master sergeant, a first sergeant, a sergeant major, multiple sergeants major, tuned in for sanity checks, do that. That equals success, because they made it the step beyond you. So I would say always include at least one of them in, and talk to your chain of command too. And that's my promise to you guys too, that I will not communicate in a vacuum with your soldiers. And I think I said, if I can send out, if anybody wants it, the really detailed number CMF brief slide that is going to be like foreign to, when I look at it, I'm like, this, yeah, you could have done this whole slide in like 2 numbers. But it's HRC talk, and I'm happy to share it with anybody that wants it. I can send it to you, and then you just kind of have it as a resource. Might help you, some sergeants major and master sergeants, if your G1s or your command sergeant majors are coming at you, like how come we can't, why not? And so that might be a good tool for you. And also I did some board analysis too for the sergeant first class board and the master sergeant board too. And I think those will be great tools for you guys to use when you are counseling, mentor, coaching people that are wondering why they didn't make it and what is next as well. So I'll send those out to you as well. And I think that's it. Unless you guys got any more questions. Oh, what is it? Sorry, Wheeler, you got to make an announcement.
At 10:45, room 15, there's going to be a 15-minute PA portal class. So that's room 15 at 10:45, and all day in room 16. APAC has the new equipment up, so stop in and check that out.
One final tiny alibi. If you call my desk number, leave a message. Leave a message. I'm probably shooting myself because I probably didn't return somebody's call in this room right now. But what I don't like is if you tell me that I've been trying to get in touch with you for a month. Well, hang-ups sound the same. So leave a message. I swear I check them. I swear I do, okay?
Your name and phone number.
Yeah, your phone number is a good thing too. Yeah, yeah. So just call me, reach out, yeah, I'm here for anything. So I'll help you with any problem I possibly can. And yeah, I think that's it. If we don't got anything else, awesome.